Yeah, last 2 weeks we discussed about your research topics and your objectives. And I also saw certain students, and today is in fact, the deadline, isn't it? Deadline for what? Hmm? What's the deadline for?
Literature review.
Literature review, indeed. So that's what we were expecting today. Okay, right. So 16D, let me open. Let me share my screen with you. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, brother. Thank you very much. Right. So let's see the first assignment submission. Literature review submission. There are 47 students who have submitted on time. Here, Silva is there. Being the first, we'll see what he has submitted. Usually, Silva does good things. That's what I see. Yeah. So he has given his topic. Then the literature related. Discuss the concepts. Theoretical background. Yeah, he has done a fairly good job. Yeah, very good. But apparently, I just browsed Putha, right? But seems you have done a very nice, impressive job.
Thank you.
Good. Take an effort. That's apparent. So, 16 pages. Then let's see the second person. Francisco. These are good, Francisco. We met that day. Is Francisco there? But I think his topic is different than what's being allocated to him. With a deep pick, maybe I can't remember. Maybe it's that one, but again, it seems emerging Kerala Matagari Mandani. Just 8 pages. Yeah, students have done a reasonable job. Right, good. So let me go through like this and give the grades. So I can grade it with a grade. So this for the grade. So yes, good. Okay. So that's about the submissions. Okay. Students have submitted it on time. This person 4 minutes, but not a big deal. Madhuvansh 4 minutes late. Others on time, good. I think මේ කාටත් අන්න එකලා මේ Word document submit කරලා. පැහැදිලිව කියනවා මෙතන please yeah structure the literature. Okay, right. Okay, there's no problem. Okay, so with that, then thank you. Right, now I have to grade it. So we'll see what you have done. Okay. Okay, I'm getting an article being published. So one of my articles are published. Okay, good news. Do selected board governance mechanisms strengthen the link between institution and macroeconomic variables and financial flexibility for corporate studies. So you can see with two other authors, I have published. We have published this article on 19th February 2024. Very recent article, which is published in Emerald. You don't know how much effort we had put into this article for the publication. Massive kind of energy, massive time, and I really appreciate this one of our students, Harshani Sashikala Vijayaratne. She's a lecturer at Galle University, and her supervisor was Dr. Anurad. And they invited me also to help them in this paper. So we got together as a team, and we have published in Emerald. A very difficult work to publish in good journals. So it's published. Great. Right. So that's about research. Research is part of our life, isn't it? Right. So thank you, students, for the submission. Appreciated for your effort. Okay, now you know what's your deadline for your final proposal submission. It's on 25th March. So hope you are working on that, and good luck with that as well. Okay. Any questions that you want to clarify? Questions, concerns? Okay, right. Students, are you with me? Questions there? Right, any questions, concerns? So I see 29 students were logged in. Questions there? So किसी question है? Okay, right. So yeah. Okay, with that then we'll start today's session. So today I'm going to discuss about questionnaires. Now last time we discussed about, in theory, typically we discussed about sampling, and today I'm going to discuss about your questionnaires, right? And also I would like to give you a homework, right? The homework is that you have to now, we'll decide that at the end to explain your methodology, right? Because that's the next major part of your research proposal, to explain your methodology. There also I'll be giving you a small guideline. It's already there. So you might need to answer or explain that your methodology. So be ready with that assignment as well. Again, it's only a PowerPoint presentation because it's going to help you to clarify what kind of methodology that you are going to apply, right? And I'll help you to do that. And first of all, I need to teach you a little bit of SPSS for that as well. So you can read and understand what's being done, right? So the SPSS sessions are also there, but again, we need to think about how to organize that SPSS sessions. Okay, I have already a set of videos already, and what I would do is I will tell what kind of analysis that you can perform. And yes, today itself I will share those videos with you related to SPSS. Right. One question to you all. Have you done already SPSS? Have you already done SPSS? In SAB. In SAB, have you studied SPSS earlier?
No, sir.
No. Okay, good. Then I have the honors to teach you what's SPSS and what it does. Right? So what SPSS and what it does, I can teach you. So then we can see what kind of analysis that you can perform. Okay. Right, we'll come to that a little bit later. But today we'll discuss quickly about questionnaire development. Now it's about data collection. And so afterwards we can go into quantitative data analysis. That's where I'm targeting to go. Then we can go into finally qualitative research. But meanwhile, I need to teach you a little bit of SPSS. And I'm going to give you a bit of homework for that, right? Because of the time limitations. Okay, so because we have few sessions, as well as we need to organize some little bit of more sessions that we were unable to do certain sessions. So therefore, we might need to think of organizing a little bit more, 1 or 2 more sessions as well. But I'll discuss that with Miss Jennifer, and we'll see how we can organize those things. Maybe again online sessions. But meanwhile, I think you need to understand about SPSS, right? You need to understand what's SPSS and how to perform different analysis using SPSS. SPSS is not a difficult package, but you have to understand how to get data from Excel into SPSS, and then how to start analyzing using SPSS. Right. So likewise. So let me take a simple example and explain that to you in time to come. Right, a simple example, so you will understand what's SPSS and how you could perform analysis using SPSS. Right. Okay, so that will be helpful. And meanwhile, the batch leader, we have two batch leaders. Can one of the batch leader send me a test mail? Right, please put a test mail to my email address, ajwad@sjp.ac.lk. Let me put that over here. So I will share the package with you. I think you already have that, but again, so please, batch leaders, put me one of the batch leader. That's enough. Please send me. Please send me a small test email. So I'll share some information with you. Right. Okay. All right. Now let's discuss about questionnaire development. So I'll start with part 2. Right, so please download part 2. And we are going to open it. So I'm going to teach you how to develop a questionnaire for your research. How to develop a questionnaire for your research. Okay. So that's going to be helpful and that's going to be really important as well. So now, why do you need a questionnaire? First of all, students, can you tell me, why do you need a questionnaire in your research? We'll ask certain students, isn't it? Why we require a questionnaire? We'll ask some students. Right, we have a lot of students. We have Zaib. Zaib, can you tell us, Puta, why do you need a questionnaire in your research? I cannot hear you. Good. Yes, Puta, yes.
To gather data to the research.
Excellent. Indeed. Sure. Very true. Now, for your research, you need data, isn't it? So to gather this data, now you have objectives in your research. Now you yourself came up with objectives, right? Now you have to understand, to achieve those objectives, you need data. Unless you have data, you cannot achieve those objectives. Now, say for an example, you need to see the relationship between, let's say, sustainable reporting and corporate performance, right? Sustainable reporting and corporate performance. Now, to see that relationship between those two variables, right? Or let's say job satisfaction and salary and job satisfaction. Now, to see the relationship, you need data of the employees, isn't it? Now, in the early example, it was the company sustainable reporting and then financial performance. So for this, you need data. To get this data, you could you could administer a question and you can get data. So yes, exactly, you are very correct. So in terms of questionnaire developments, that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to get data. Questionnaire is where, right, a set of questions that you are trying to, give to the respondents to get data to achieve your objectives, research objectives. Right now, of course, there are different ways that you can get data. Questionnaire is only one way. What are the other ways that are there that you can get data? Distribution of question is one. What are the other ways? We'll ask another student. We have Viraj Lakmal. Viraj Lakmal, would you like to share? Oh no, of course that's no, sorry, it's not that was not there. Right, we have Pereira. 1660 Pereira. 60 Pereira. What are the other ways that you can collect data? Question is one way that you can collect data. What are the other ways that you can collect data?
Interviews.
Very good. Interviews. You can perform interviews. Very nice. Excellent. Then we'll ask another student. Now we have two ways we discussed. One is by way of questionnaire. The other one is perform interviews. Then we'll ask another way. Jayasudha. 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 Sorry. Jayasudha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. Jayasudha, can you tell another way that you can collect data? Jayasudha, what's another way? Jayasudha is angry with us, isn't it? Jayasudha is not answering our questions. What to do? She's not answering. Right? That's not so good. While being in the lecture, you have to answer the questions. That's why what we call active participation. If not, it's a way that we have to assume that you are doing something else. All right. Then we'll see some other student. Right. Okay. We have PSR Giant. PSR Giant. Number 11.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but what are the other ways that you can collect data?
Sir, obtain third-party confirmations.
Third-party confirmations. Third-party confirmations also could be with questions. You get the confirmation through question. Right. Actually, another way is for the you can observe and get data. One, you can do a question and get data. One, you can do an interview and get data, and you can observe. Now, for an example, I could observe you and get data, how you behave. Right? Maybe I can put some certain cameras in the classroom and I can monitor you and how you behave. That's called observation. Now, these are all primary data collection methods. Primary data collection means that you collect data by yourself, for your research. Right? If I have research to perform, like for an example, to see employee satisfaction, or let's say I want to see your satisfaction level and your performance level, your satisfaction and your performance. Then if I give a questionnaire or if I do an interview or if I observe you, it's called primary data because I am the researcher collecting the data for my purpose. That's primary data. Or you can get data from secondary sources. Now, for an example, secondary data, that's called secondary data. Secondary data can be, you can obtain data from maybe some other sources, right? Like for an example, now if I want information related to inflation, then how I'm going to get data? So do I need to go and find what's inflation? No, I can get it from a secondary source. Already existing source is secondary source. Data collected by someone else, right? And I'm going to get that data for me. That's called secondary data. Write down. Primary data is data. Primary data is data that you collect by yourself. The researcher collects by him or herself for his or her research. Primary data. Secondary data is already collected data by someone else. And the researcher is using that data. For an example, now if I want inflation data, from where would I get it? From where would I get it?
CBSL.
Very good. Central Bank of Sri Lanka. You can go to the annual report, download it, and it's a secondary data. Why? It's being collected by someone else for that person's purpose, but I'm using that data. So that's the difference between primary data and secondary data. Is that clear? So these would be in the exam, right? You're going to have a 3-hour exam at the end of the semester, right? And do you understand the difference between primary and secondary data? Primary data is data collected by the researcher for his or her own purpose. Secondary data is already collected data by someone else, and the researcher is using that data for the research, right? So there are advantages as well as disadvantages. Now, in using secondary data, what's the main advantage? What's the main advantage of using secondary data?
Time saving.
Exactly. It saves a great deal of time because it's already collected. Time saving, and most probably it might be free of charge, so you can get it free of charge. And it might be very reliable data because it's being collected by some government institution. Likewise, there are certain advantages. Also, there could be severe disadvantages as well. Again, reliability. It's collected by someone else, so is it really reliable? In Sri Lanka, central bank data and every data is very reliable. But in in countries like Bangladesh, the central bank data is also sometimes questionable, isn't it? Reliability, right? And also it might not suit your purpose because it's collected by someone else for that person's purpose. So it might not suit your purpose. And sometimes it might be expensive getting secondary data. Now, central bank data is available anytime to anyone, but sometimes it might not be available to you. Sometimes you have to pay for data. It's expensive. It's expensive sometimes. So likewise, now today I'm going to discuss about questionnaire development. Question is one way to get the data. Do you understand? So what's a questionnaire? A question is a set of questions that's developed to obtain data for a particular research objective, in achieving a particular research objective. Right, so that's what it's here. A set of questions designed to generate information necessary to meet research objectives. So you try to, give this questionnaire and you are trying to obtain data to achieve the research objectives. Now you all came up with your objectives in your two slide presentation, right? So this particular question is for that. To achieve your objectives, you need data. And so you draft a document with set of questions. So that's called a question. And a good questionnaire should be able to get the necessary information, right? And it has to be considerate and professional to the respondents. And of course, meeting coding and data processing requirements. Coding means now when you get data, you need to enter that to a computer program like SPSS. So there you'll be using a coding system. Now, for an example, gender. Gender, we have males and females. So you would code it as number 1 female, number 2 male. Something like that. So that's called coding, giving numbers. Right. Then Likert scale, already I taught you. Likert scale you will have from 1 to 5. I disagree, number 5. Right. In fact, number 1. In number 2, disagree. Number 3, neutral. Number 4, agree. And number 5, highly agree. Right. Questions like that. So this is the questionnaire design process. Basically, this is how you design the questionnaire. There are 10 steps. There are 10 steps in designing a questionnaire. First one is you determine your objectives of your study. First of all, you have to know what are your objectives. Now, before you collect the data, you should know what are your objectives. Then only you can collect the required data. Isn't it? If you don't know what you need, then what data to collect? Right? Then you have to look at the data collection methods. Likewise, there are 10 steps, which I'm going to elaborate next. So yes, the first one is step number 1, to see your objectives. What are your research objectives? Now that's what we did. Now, therefore, don't ask questions that are irrelevant. How to decide whether some questions are relevant or not? Now in a question, if you're going to put certain questions, how to decide whether it's relevant or not? We'll ask our students. How to decide?
Based on the
Excellent. Indeed. You gave the most correct answer before I even asked them. It's based on the objectives. Based on the objectives, you will be doing what? You are going to decide what are your questions and to decide whether that question is required or irrelevant question. Of course, you will be asking some demographic information. In any questionnaire, you might be asking if it is related to a person, you'll be asking the gender, age, marital status, some kind of set of demographic, we call that demographic data. And apart from that, you will ask other different questions. Other different questions, right? So that's what we call basically a questioning, right? So you have to first decide what are your objectives. So therefore, based on that, you can avoid unnecessary questions if those questions are irrelevant. This step number 2, collection method. So you can collect data in variety of different ways, right? You can collect data in variety of different ways. Of course, you can personally give a questionnaire and you can collect the data. Or I will also teach you there's something called CATI and CAPI. CATI, computer assisted telephone interview, right? So CATI, you can do it through a telephone, right? And you can even use the computer to do asking the question, although it will be very boring to do that. Or you can send electronically. Now the best way to get data is Google Forms. You can get Google Forms, and of course you can send the questionnaire through a mail as well, right? But however, out of these 4 methods, personally getting, physically going and getting your questionnaire done, telephone, electronic, and mail, what's the most common method these days out of these 4 in getting data? What's the most common method?
Electronic.
Okay, one student says electronic. Surya, that's Surya. Yes. How about others? Sandroon, what do you think? Sandroon, we have to develop a hypothesis for Sandroon. What might be Sandroon doing? Hypothesis is a testable assumption. In research, we call a testable assumption as a hypothesis. So what might be Sandroon doing? Sandrovani might be in a place where she cannot speak. So it's simple as that. That's why she is not speaking. What might be the place? Maybe the washroom. The washroom, you cannot speak now while doing certain activities. So she might be engaged in a certain activity that she is unable to speak. Right? So that's the assumption. I don't know. Then how can you test it? You can test it. Now, once she does that activity, comes back, then we can ask that, isn't it? Whether you were engaged in that activity. So that's what we call testing a hypothesis. Everything is research, isn't it? You can even joke with research, of course. Then we'll ask Fernando 21. 21, Fernando. What's the most common method currently people use? This was the
Interview.
no. I'm asking this out of these 4 methods. Personal, telephone, electronic, and mail. What's the most common method? What Putha means by electronic though? Even I gave an example, Putha, now. Half an hour. What was the example I gave?
Google Form.
Google Forms, right? Okay. Right. So out of these four, what's the main method that now a lot of people use? Yes, Vinay.
Electronic method. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that's the answer. So electronic method, or by way of, asking them to fill a questionnaire, electronically is the most common method in developing a question and getting data these days. Of course. So that's how you have to decide. That's your number two. Whether you are going to print a question and get the data, or whether you are going to use a telephone interviewing system, or are you going to use electronic method? In our case, or even the data that the research that we publish, we use the electronic method oftentimes. Right. Then number three, you have to decide what's the question format, response format. So when it comes to questions, there are three types of questions. So these are three types of questions. One type of question is open-ended question. Open-ended questions. Open-ended question is where you ask a question and you leave a space where the respondent could write. The person could write his ideas or her ideas. Open-ended questions. Now, for an example, I could ask you an open-ended question. What do you think about SAB? School of Accounting and Business. And then I could leave a space where you can write what you think about that. So those type of questions are known as open-ended questions. Open-ended questions. Then of course we do have closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions. Now what are closed-ended questions? Closed-ended questions means simply it gives options to select. That's why it's closed-ended. Open-ended, you can write anything that you want in the given space. But closed-ended questions gives options from a list where you have to select. Usually these are multiple choice, right? So those closed-ended questions could have two options. Then in that case, we call it dictonymous, right? Remember the word dictonymous. Dictonymous means it has two options. Dictonymous means having two options. Dictonymous. Respondents choose between two alternatives. Now, for an example, I might ask, what's your gender? So you have two options. Male, female. That's a dictonymous question. So let me ask another student an example for a dictonymous question. Who states? We'll ask another one. Right. Okay, good. We have Gonalagod. Gonalagod Buddha, 41. Another
Yes, sir.
example for Buddha dictonymous question. Two
Um,
states. The response
girl or
should
boy?
contain. Yes, you are. That means male gender. You are a female or male. That's correct. Good. That was the example which was gave. Then we have Vijay Sundara. Vijay Sundara, can you give us another example where there could be dictonymous? Dictonymous means two states.
Something like so agree or not agree.
Exactly. Whether you agree on it, disagree. So two options. It's not Likert scale. You are going to just ask whether you agree or disagree. That's all. Two options. Either you agree or you disagree. Right? Very good. Then summarizing. Summarizing number 14. Can you give me an example for a dictonymous question? Summarizing. We require to make a hypothesis for summarizing also, no? Isn't it? What might be summarizing as assumption? These days, sir, you have to understand, summarizing might be telling So you have to understand these days there's economic crisis. So only doing one job is not enough. We need to engage in cottage industries. So while I'm listening to the lecture, I'm engaged in a cottage industry. So what kind of cottage industries are there? We have different kind of cottage industry. This is not related to that student. But people even brew illicit liquor. You know, kasipu perana. So they brew illicit liquor and sell that because so much difficulty. I don't say anyone here would do that, but I don't know. When some students are not answering, maybe that might be one of the reasons. I don't know. I am hypothesizing. Right? I'm hypothesizing. Maybe it might be the case, or it might be some other case. I don't know. Okay. So we'll ask another student. Yeah. We have Veerasingh. W-A-T-N Veerasingh. Uta, can you give us another example for a dictonymous question?
Yes or no?
Excellent. That was I was expecting, and you gave that. Excellent. Yes, no. You would ask, are you married? Yes, no. Very good. So yes, those are called dictonymous questions. So you give two options, you are saying. Then it can be more than two options where it's multiple choice. Right? You could ask, okay, who's your favorite officer at SAB? And you will give a list of names. Maybe you start with some good officer at SAB. Or maybe you'll ask, who is the most favorite lecturer? And of course, I know I might not be the most favorite lecturer now, but maybe after some time you'll understand the importance of some of my, ways of teaching. So likewise, you'll give more than two options and ask to select a choice. Okay, I might ask you, who is the favorite politician? Right? There might be a choice, of course, at the end. No one above. Right? Likewise. Then the third one is called scale response questions. Here, scale response questions ask the intensity. That's also a multiple choice type of question, but now it asks intensity. Now, I would ask, do you agree? Now, for an example, I might ask, do you agree that Dr. Who is the central bank governor? Dr. Nandasena, no? Nandalal. Dr. Nandalal is doing a good job. Highly agree, highly disagree. 1, highly disagree. 2, disagree. 3, neutral. 4, agree. 5, highly agree. So here the intensity is there. It's not just 4 options or 5 options in this case. It's the intensity. Highly agree to highly disagree. Now here for an example, now that we have tried the new sugar-free candy brand, would you say that you would definitely buy it? Definitely not buy it. See, it's test what the intensity, the emotional intensity is being tested here. So we call it scaled response questions. Intensity is being tested. It's also a type of MCQ, but again, it's about scaled response. So likewise, students, you will see there are 3 types of response formats: open-ended questions, closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions have dictonymous questions and multiple choice questions, then scaled response questions. So these are the 3 types of questions that you can ask a respondent. Now, Likert type questions are scale response questions. Okay. Is that clear? Is that clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good. Then You have to make your wording very clear. This is step number 4. Question wording should be very clear. First of all, rule number 3, earlier rules are given. Rule number 3 is use simple words, right? Rather than asking marital status, ask whether you are married. Now let me ask you this question from you. You have to give me an answer. If I ask this question from you, what is the indication in your chronometer? We'll ask Pushpika. Pushpika, what's the indication of your chronometer? Do you understand what I'm saying? No. I'm
No, sir.
asking what's your time? Chronometer is the watch. No, see, I purposely made it very complex so no one could understand. Why you should do that? I'm very foolish to do that, right? If the researcher puts some kind of stupid, very complex questions, terminology, no one would understand it. No one would understand it. So therefore, keep in mind, you have to ask in a way that your respondents are an ordinary person, ordinary man or woman would understand and respond. Don't expect your respondents are professors in English language and in the area of your subject matter, right? No one would understand. If I ask you what's the indication of your chronometer, no one would understand. Now you know that. I'm asking simply, what's your time? So I should have asked what's your time, right? So likewise, use simple words. And also use clear wording. Unambiguous wording means you have to ask things clearly. Now, for an example, if I ask you like this, now I'll give you an example what happened. Now, sometimes back I asked a student, do you often go to the library, university library, on a physical basis? Right? So one student told, yes, sir, I often go to the library. Right? That was a male student and he was telling that he often goes to the library. Then I asked another student, a female student, who was very studious, do you often go to the library? The female student told, no, sir, I go, but not that much. What's wrong with that question? What's wrong with that question? Often means a very ambiguous, unclear word. Often is unclear. It's not clear what's often. So then I asked the question like this from the boy, male student. I asked him, per month, how many times do you physically go to the lab? University lab. Right? He told often no. Actually, it was one time. For him, it's often. One time. එකපාරක් තමයි. ඒකේ යට often. So I should have asked the question what? Per 1 month or per week, how many times do you go to the lab? On a physical basis. Then I asked the girl, female students, in a month's time, how many times do you physically visit the library? She was telling me, who told not so often, she was telling 20 times. She in fact goes there to study and sleep also. So much family. And I told no, you told not. No, sir, that's not. I have 30 days. But I go only 20 days, so sir, it's not too open for me. Ask clear questions. Don't use ambiguous wordings. Ambiguous wordings means unclear wordings. Right? Did you get that? Now, for an example, here this question. Where do you usually buy school supplies? It's very where usually is very ambiguous. It's not clear. Rather, you should ask from which retailers did you buy? You can say, okay, from Sarasavi or from some other bookshop that whether you are buying. Did you buy school supplies this year? So not usually this year. From where? From which retailers you buy? Both. So likewise, in questionnaire wording makes things very clear. Is that clear, student? Using simple words as well as unambiguous words. Then third one. Right, the next rule, rule number 5. Avoid double-barreled questions. Double barrel means you will understand. Let me give you an example. Now, I'm going to ask a question like this. Tell me what's wrong with this question. What is your satisfaction regarding the price and quality of an iPhone? Highly dissatisfied? Highly satisfied. We'll ask a student what's wrong with this question. There's something wrong with this question. The people who know the answer don't give the answer. I'm going to ask some students, right, to instigate some interest in discussion. We have number 49, Ashan. Ashan, how are you doing? Can you tell us what's wrong with this question, Ashan? Number 49, Ashan. Ashan is not answering the question. What might be he doing? He also might be in the washroom, isn't it? Doing an activity that cannot be publicly told. You decide what's that activity. I don't. But it's only my hypothesis. I don't know what he's doing. Right, we'll ask another one. We have Jackie. Jackie, what's wrong with this question?
iPhone is one of the famous brand.
No. I'm asking what's wrong with this question. Of course, I know iPhone is one of the famous brands, but what's wrong with this question?
Only 5 answers there.
So do you need more answers? Okay. Right. Thank you. So that's, but you might be correct or wrong. That's perfectly fine. Right. But try to answer the question. And at the exam, expect these kind of questions. Then you have Tatsarani. Tatsarani, what's wrong with this question? Tatsarani. By looking at her name, Tatsarani, right, it seems she's engaged in what? She might be in a music concert. Tatsarani. So I think that's why she's unable to answer the questions. Isn't it? Tatsarani is engaged in a musical concert at this point. But I suggest not to mix music and education at the same time. Okay, anyone? Rislan? We have Rislan. I think Rislan will give a good answer. Rislan, can you tell what's wrong with this question? What's wrong with this question? What is your satisfaction regarding the price and quality of an iPhone? What's wrong? Anything wrong? Or everything fine?
All are
But-
not correct.
Okay, no worries. No worries. And I really appreciate Rislan because the answer might be correct or wrong, but he unmuted himself and he told what's his idea. I really appreciate that. But some students are dead silent. That's bad. That's not manners. You know, once you are asked, a lecturer asks you to answer a question, if you are silent, at least you have to tell, sir, madam, I don't know the answer. Sorry. That's what we call ethics and manners, isn't it? We need to have ethics and manners, particularly SCB graduates. Once you graduate Buddha, there should be a difference between a graduate professional like you and just a person who, a street worker. Again, with all due respect, what are the labor? Now there are sanitary workers, that work on the roads. No? You see the urban council and other things. There are sanitary workers. They eat beetle and speak filth and run here and there. And there's all kind of mischievous activities. There should be a difference between those people and learned people, professional graduates, graduate professionals like you. One thing is that makes you different is from what? Ethics. Ethical conduct. When a lecturer speaks to you, you have to address that person, sir or madam, and the stance. Okay, so that's what we call ethics. Ethics, professionalism. Right, that's what we promote at SAB. We need professionals, graduate professionals like you. Okay, so I really appreciate Islam for trying to answer, although it might be correct or wrong. But
Excuse me, sir.
just put it.
Excuse me, sir. So price and quality, ask one question.
Exactly. Jayakiti came up with the most accurate answer. Jayakiti came up with the most accurate answer. In the one question, you are asking two questions. Now you are asking about the price and the quality at the same time of an iPhone. I might be highly dissatisfied with the price because it's too expensive. I think the newest model, I don't know what's the newest model. I think it's iPhone 14 or 15. I don't know now what's the version. Might be around, the high-end one might be around 500,000. It's a $500,000. $500,000 for an iPhone. But how about the quality? Supreme quality. And elegance, supreme. So I might be highly dissatisfied with the price and highly satisfied with the quality. So then what to select? Because we have given one set of options. So these type of questions are known as double barrel questions. You're asking two things in one question. Is it correct? It's wrong. Because what to answer? You're asking the same question about the price and the quality. These are called double barrel questions. Is that clear, Buddha? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Double barrel question.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So avoid double barrel questions. Then avoid leading questions. Now sometimes we give the answer, we make the person give the answer that what we want. Right? The desired answer, we are trying to get the desired answer that we want from that person. In Sinhala language, we call it katata uttare dila ahana. So, which means you are trying to give the answer and take the answer from that person, right? The desired answer you want. Now, see for an example, these two are 6 and 7, rule number 6 and 7, almost the same thing. Now, here see this question and tell me what's wrong. Do you agree that the government should cut taxes so that we can lead better lives? What's wrong with that question? Do you agree that the government should cut taxes so that we can lead better lives? What's wrong with that question?
Sir, there it says, in order for us to lead better lives,
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. So that we can lead better lives. Isn't it? We shouldn't have asked that because we are giving the answer, right? So, because the taxes are so high. So, to lead better lives, anyone would answer yes. You should have stopped from where? Do you agree that the government should cut taxes? That's all. You don't need to lead the person to answer so that we can lead better lives. No, it's not required. So you have to avoid these kind of leading questions. Then also loaded questions, right? So emotionally, you are going to charge the person. I can say some journalists do this. Particularly, I see that the journalist called Chamudita. My goodness, he asks always loaded questions, emotionally charged questions. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to upset the respondent and get correct or true sentiments. Those are called loaded questions. So people come very calm and they try to manage the situation, but this man asks very loaded questions. But we should not do that. We should not allow. Now, for an example, do you think chemical companies are doing everything possible to control pollution? Why do you need to say everything possible? Which we know very well, it's not the case. It's a loaded question. So likewise, you have to avoid this type of question wording, right? Also avoid any assumptions. Don't assume that the respondent will know certain information. Also avoid burdensome questions. Don't ask what you ate last Saturday morning or last month on 25th, what did you eat? In fact, to be very truthful, I cannot remember what I ate in the morning today. Right? So much busy as well as so much burdened with a lot of other things. And also you have to ask your questions very clearly. Now, if you just state your annual income, it's not clear. You should state your personal gross annual income. Because it can be household income, it might be net income. So likewise, you have to be very clear in asking your question. Now I'm going to give this question over here. What is your annual household income? That's the question. Again, I'm asking, and 4 options are given. Can you tell me? I'm going to ask each of you again. There are several things wrong in this question. Can you tell me what are the things that are wrong in this question? So it says, what is your annual household income? And certain options are given. What's wrong? Can you tell me? So I'm going to show it again and I'm going to ask you. So be ready with the answer. What is your annual household income? What's wrong with this question?
There's a gap between 40,000 to 20,000. There's no
very
selection.
good, very good, excellent. One student see that there's a gap. Now, if a person gets 25,000 as salary, we have to put that. One person gets 25,000 as salary. Then we have to put that. There's no option to put that. So yes, there is a gap. Very good. That's one issue. How about others?
Sir, they have
Yeah.
asked a direct question, but they have given multiple choices now.
That's fine. What is your annual household income? So you can select within the range, but that's okay. But of course, thank you very much.
Oh,
But
okay,
Putha,
sir.
again, you can give options and you can ask the respondent to select out of one. Maybe if I'm getting, let's say, $50,000, then you can just put a tick. But again, thank you very much,
Okay, sir.
Putha. Excellent. What else?
So one number, like same number got repeated in the
That's another problem. Very good. Now, let's say for an example, I'm exactly getting $10,000. Then is it option 1 or option 2? Option 1 or option 2? No one knows. So this should have been what? 0 to 10,000, then 10,001 to 15,000, then $15,001 to 20,000. Then that problem is solved. Right? 40,001 to 60,000. Right? So likewise, you can, if not, it's repeated, isn't it? If a person gets 10,000, what to select? So let me correct what you tell. අපි correct කරමු ඔයාලා කියන ප්‍රශ්න. Okay. So one student told one option is missing. What's the correct option? ඒක දාන්න. So dollar sign. Okay, he was telling okay. 20,000 to 40,000 නෑ කියවන්න කලම. So let's correct that now. Whether we කිව්ව නෑ කියලා ඔන්න දැන් ආවා. 20,000 to 40,000. Sorry, yeah. 20,000 to 40,000. එක දරුවෙක් කිව්වා ඉස්සෙල්ලාම දරුවා කිව්වේ ඒක. ඊට පස්සේ තව දරුවෙක් කිව්වා. There's repetitions. So this should be ideally 10,001, 15,001, 20,001, and 40,001. No problem. Good. What else is wrong with this question?
So in
Sir,
this case,
Sorry.
if
Yes.
someone earn more than 60,000, it's not covered.
Excellent. දැන් 40,000ට වැඩියෙන් ගන්න කෙනෙක්ට නෑ මේක. 60,000, no? If the person is getting more than 60,000, so you can say 60,001, or you can say more than 60,000. You don't say 60,001 because it says more than. The 60,000 is not taken. More than 60,000. Anything about 60,000. Anything above 60,000 you can. Right, very good. So that's another issue. What else? What else? What else? What are the other issues? Issues Sagare. What are the other issues? Any other student? What are the other issues?
So when considering the household income, what to be considered?
Very good. Is it gross or net? Say gross. Annual household income. Gross or net? Right. Household income. So likewise, there are certain other issues, but you can see these are all issues that you can correct in this question. Okay. So
Excuse me, sir.
yes, Putha.
Yeah, is currency
Yes.
is not a problem? Currency?
This one, Putha, it depends on now. We have targeted this question to the expats. Expatriates. In that case, Putha, no issue. But on the other hand, another issue might be, are these values reasonable? The expat කෙනෙක් $10,000 ගන්න. $10,000 ගන්න. In Sri Lanka, whether an expat who is working in America, is that person getting 60,000 per annum as household income? Are these values reasonable? Is another question. Got the point?
Yes, yes. Okay, sir. Thank you.
60,000 I think $60,000 is, for an expat for a year, household income might not at all put adequate. So these ranges seems not good, not adequate, not representative, isn't it?
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
So these are the issues, right? So we encountered several issues in this question, right? Okay. Okay. Then related to question wording, some other issues are there. So let's go through, let's put it to slideshow mode. Then use appropriate phrases. Now, for an example, don't use terms like amazingly happy. Now, in a Likert questions, don't use amazingly happy, middlingly happy, kind of unhappy. Don't use that kind of terms which we don't use. We could say number 1, highly dissatisfied, to number 5, highly satisfied. Use appropriate phrases. And also, you have to avoid something called the order bias. Right? Order bias should be avoided. Now look at these two options. What's correct? Now you can ask a Likert question in this manner. Option A. Option A says highly dissatisfied to 5 highly satisfied. Right? Option B reverses that. Option B gives 1 highly satisfied. Right? Number 5 highly dissatisfied. What's correct? A or B? Number 1 should be highly satisfied or highly dissatisfied. What do you say? We'll take a vote. A vote. So vote take a gun. So vote take a. What a vote take a gun. And the poll like a on poll. On the deck, extra meeting a poll like a. Ariane, we get a come up, poll like a. Polls. Okay, let's try to put a poll and ask what do you think is correct? Okay, this Microsoft polling. So I have a Microsoft account, I believe. Maybe some other day I could check that, isn't it? Okay, sign in, create a form. Create a form. Start all forms of history, new form, new quiz. Yeah, maybe I can check that later, isn't it? Okay, then, as usual, let's use the known thing. LinkedIn is a recently polls. My recent poll. New poll set, rating and red. Rating and ranking percentages. Maybe I can check that later. Is it? Okay. We'll use our usual polling way. Okay. Now again, let me remind you the question. Now here there are two, A and B. A and B. Highly dissatisfied to highly satisfied. A. So number 1 is highly dissatisfied. B is highly satisfied. Right. Now raise your hands who thinks A is correct. A is correct. Please raise your hands. A is correct. Please raise your hand. A hari kira raise hands in teams that you have raised hands. You cannot to raise your hands physically. We'll ask students. Number 5. What do you think? Is A correct or B correct?
B, sir.
B. Samarataka says B. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Putra. Pretty good. DC logging on then Putra answer. Francisco in our team man. Francisco. Tell us, Putra.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Very good, very good. Francisco is there. Pereira is there, number 13. 13 Pereira. Pereira.
Yes, sir.
Mr. the Mrs. Miss Pereira. Okay. Miss Pereira, A here. We'll ask another student. We have 21 Fenel.
Sir, A. Answer.
A. Right. Thank you, Mata. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy. Students immediately gave their answers. Yes, the answer is A. Why? The answer is this is the correct answer. Why? Because here number 1 is assigned to a bad thing, highly dissatisfied. Usually our brains, right, attribute number 1 for good things. The class number 1, who got a first. Likewise, number 1 is put into good things. So usually what will happen is then we will always select number 1 in our answers. To avoid that bias, right, in questionnaire development, always remember for number 1, you give the worst thing, highly dissatisfied. To avoid our brain, but order bias, right? The brain has an order bias for giving number 1 to good things like highly satisfied. So here number 1 is given highly satisfied. So this is order biased. So people tend to select this one. So to avoid that issue, right, we put it this way. Number 1, highly dissatisfied, something bad for number 1. Then number 5, highly satisfied, something good for this one. So that's what we call avoiding order bias. Understood, Putra? Order bias, avoiding order bias. So now take the questionnaires that you have got in your life and see whether number 1 has been assigned to something bad, like highly dissatisfied, highly disagree. If it is not, then that's not a good question. They are not considered order bias. Understood, Buddha? Simple but important information. Question as Purvati. Maybe you did not know these things when you prepared questionnaires or field questionnaires, but these things you have to understand. Okay? Right. Okay, there are several other rules I'm going to teach you when you are going to prepare a question, and also at the exam you can expect these type of questions. You'll be given samples and asked what's wrong with this and suggest improvements. Right? Okay. It's almost 8. Shall we take a break? Break, and we'll meet at 8:20. Right? Atai is set. So 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes break. So please have your maybe breakfast or lunch or dinner. Right? For some people, it might be the breakfast even. They might have not eaten anything for the day. So therefore eat something and come back at 8:20. Okay? And we'll continue about questionnaire development. Today is the day of questionnaire development. And I hope the batch leader had sent me, one of the batch leaders have sent me the test email. Yeah, I hope that person has sent me a test email. Yes, very good. Pavani has sent me. Thank you very much for that. So you will expect from me an email, right? And it will contain certain instructions. Please share that with your colleagues. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay, Buddha. Thank you very much.
Hamba lakini.
Okay, students, welcome back. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Pudha. So give me a moment. I'm trying to send an email to her with an important information. Give me a moment for it, right? Okay, all right. So trying to access
Hello, sir.
yes, Pudha.
Sir, I spoke to you last Saturday. I have to get my research article from you. I have made a late submission.
අය අපේ එකත් කතා කරන්නේ. You are not well, no?
Yes.
හරි. පවනි පුතා ඔයාට ඇවිල්ලා ඇති දැන් ඊමේල් එක. හරි? You would have got an email. Circulate that puta among your friends, the batchmates.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So, right. It's follow the instructions and everything will be fine. I'm unable to tell things in public because this lecture is recorded. So therefore, but in that email, everything is there. Right. Now another student has an issue. We'll resolve that. The student was not well. So that's why he was absent from lectures because of a small illness. පුතා දැන් කතා කරපු දරුවෝ කවුද අර මේ ආටිකල් එක ගැන?
My name is Kartantri.
Kalutantri. Puta, can you text your email address?
Sure, sir. I'll text it.
1, 3. Kalutantri. මේක නෑනේ වගේ.
So my email address goes as akensha316.
Vacation.
AKENSHA.
AKENSG. Attention. Amity. Okay. බලමු අපි ලේසි එකක් ගන්න. මේ කොහොමද ඒක? Mobile banking adoption in an emerging economy. An empirical analysis of young Indian consumers. මේක තෝරගන්න තමයි.
Okay, sir.
You know the article?
So the last one is not there to be downloaded freely. First three are there.
Download කර මොනවා කරන්නේ? මේක බලුවද? සයි අප් එක.
සමහර research gate එකෙන් තමයි try කරේ.
නෑ පුතා සයි අප් එක බලන්න ඉපන්. ඒ කියන්නේ දරුවෝ බලලා නෑ මේ ඔයා බලන්නේ සයි අප් එක යූස් කරන්න දරුවෝ. කියනවාද නැද්ද මන් දන්නේ. නමුත් සයි අප් එක පුතා බලන්න පයිසන්. සයි අප් එක සමහර විට ඒක නෙමෙයි සමහර වෙලාවට තියෙනවා. Okay, you got that email, no?
Yes, sir, I did.
Well, share that with all your colleagues. මේ සයි හබ් එකට ගිහලා ගහලා බලන්න පුතේ ඒක තියනවද කියලා. මට ඇක්සස් වෙන්න දෙන්නේ.
සර් මම check කරන්නයි.
ඔව් සයි හබ් එකේ බලන්න. මෙන්න මේ ඇඩ්‍රස් එකේ බලනවද?
සර් ඒ site එක load වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
ඒ මොකද? load වෙන්නේ.
ඔව් සර් ඒකේ blank page එකක් පෙන්වන්නේ.
ආව බලන්න සයි හබ් තව versions තියෙනවා. සයි හබ් එකේ එක දේවල් තියෙනවා. database කියලා කියනවා. ඒ ඔක්කොම වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. තමයි පුතා අපේ කර්මයට මෝල් ගහක්පත් වෙනවා. නේද? එහෙමද? මේ ලෝකේ මෝල් ගස්පත් වෙන මෝල් ගස්. මෝල් ගස්පත් වෙන සර්. සර්ලාගේ මිනිස්සු ඉන්නකම් ඒ මෝල් ගස්පත් වෙන එක නවත්තන්න පුළුවන්. නේද? නේද? දැන් පුතා ඔයා මට ඩොලර් 20ක් දාන්න. මේක පුතාට පේනව නේද? මේක ගන්නවා නම් ඔයා පුතා ඩොලර් ගෙවන්න ඕන 42ක්. හරි? ඩොලර් 20ක් ගෙවන්න මේ මගේ බැංක් එකේ. මොකද ඔය නම?
කළුතන්ත්‍රි සර්.
අයියෝ තාම ටිකෙන් ඩොලර් 20ක් දාන්න. අනේ බං. ඒකත් හොඳ බිස්නස් එකක් නේ. ඩොලර් 20 තියාගෙන පුතා හොඳට වැඩ කරන්න. ඒක එච්චරයි මට අවශ්‍ය. හරිද? හොඳ දේ වට ගන්න. ඔන්න වල දෙමු.
Thank you, sir.
ආවේ දැන් අප්ඩේට් කරන්න එපා පොඩි. එයාට අප්ඩේට් your page. දැන් පුතා ඔයාට මම සතියක් දෙන්න. හරිද? ඊළඟ සතිය වෙද්දී අර ලිටරචර් එක දැන් ඔයාලට දැන්නේ ටොපික් එක ආවේ. ඊළඟ සතිය වෙද්දී මේ ලිටරචර් කරලා අප්ලෝඩ් කරන්න ඕන.
Okay,
I'm
sir.
giving you special permission only to you. Understood? Because you are not well. පැහැදිලිද ඔයාලට?
ඔව් සර්. මේ කල්තන්ත්‍රය කියන එක ඉන්නවද ඔයාලා? කළුතන්ත්‍රය කියලා තමයි සර් නම තියෙන්නේ LMS එකේ.
නෑ එළියෙම සෙනේ මේ Google Sheet එක.
Google Sheet එක තිබුණේ නැහැ.
නවගේ නම්මයි මේ පුතා නම්බර එකයි වань.
සර් chat box එකට access නැහැ.
ඔව්. chat box එකට මේක මොමාර බලන්න. මොකටද පුතා access තියෙන්නේ?
සර් මම ඒක ඊමේල් එකේ මම මෙන්ෂන් කරා නම්බර එක.
ඒක තමයි ඊමේල් තමයි. ඊමේල් තමයි නේද? ඔයාලට දාපු මාතෘකාව ඔය ඒක පෙන්නන්න. Okay. Anya, make an.
Okay, sir.
What is the concept? Door hotel
Thank you, sir.
වැඩේ හොඳට තියෙන්න ඕන පුතා. හොඳද? දැන් ඔයාලට සතියකුත් මම දුන්නා. ඔයාලට අසනීපෙන් හිටපු නිසා. You have to get it done now properly. Okay, now we have 58 people. Right. Okay. Right. Any other students? Any other students in the mail? Right. Now. Right. Now you should have got an email from your batch leader. Right. Now that contains information on how to get SPSS. By next week, please install that in your computer and come. Right? So I'm going to start data analysis using SPSS. Right? I'm going to use what? I'm going to tell you, teach you. Then I'm going to give you a set of videos as well. So you can see and come. So that's a gift from me. Right? So I share those videos with you free of charge, of course. And so here, these are the videos. So I'll share those videos. So I'm going to go to my website. Right? In my website, I have only one information. That's the welcome. And then this particular SPSS videos. So please go through these SPSS videos. There are 5-6 days, but at least go through the first 2 by next week. Right? So I explain what's SPSS and then how to perform SPSS analysis. So how to perform a reliability analysis, validity analysis, t-test. Likewise, now for your examination purposes, these will be important. Till regression analysis. Right? So please watch these at least the, let's say, at least the 4 videos, first 4 videos. These are workshop I did, and I'm going to give that free of charge. Right? So at least watch the first 4 videos, then later on you can watch the 5th video. So I'm going to now share this workshop with you. Right? And next week I might give an exercise where you might need to do that. So you have to have the knowledge, right, in SPSS. So Pawani Puta shared with you a link. Using that link, it will contain information how to install SPSS. And then I'm now going to share these videos. Please watch and come. I'm going to check that next week, right? So this is given to you as a gift. Now, to download the materials for this workshop, go here and it says materials. Materials, and download this first and then watch these videos. Download materials, the PowerPoint slides and the Excel files, all things are there. What you need to do is you need to download the materials and then you have to watch video number 1, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So one video is around 2 hours long. So please watch that, allocate time. And by next week, please watch these 4 videos. So that will be very helpful to understand what I'm going to do next week. If not, you won't be able to do it. Right. And so SPSS is a statistical package and all the information is there, which I'll give an introduction next week also. But you have to watch these videos. If you're unable to watch that, that would be a huge issue. So therefore, watch and come. Right? Watch and come to the lecture. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. So now let's come back to our questionnaire development. Now I think you understood. Last thing what we discussed was questionnaire wording. How to decide the questionnaire wording. Proper questionnaire wording. You have to in fact avoid questionnaire bias. Right? Avoid order bias. So we understood option A is correct because number one here we are going to bad thing. Highly dissatisfied like this, right? Then also when you are going to ask any sensitive questions like borrowing money, personal hygiene, sexual activity, criminal history, if you really want to ask that, if you don't want to ask that, don't ask anything. But on the other hand, if you really want to ask these things, be kind of diplomatic. Now you have to ask that in a non-threatening way. Now, for an example, if you ask a person, do you brush your teeth twice a day? That person will feel a bit embarrassed. දවසට දෙසරක් දත් මදිනවද කිව්වොත් ඒ මිනිස්සයා සතියකට කසරක් වෙන දෙමණි වදින්න. එතකොට ඒක අහන ක්‍රමයක් තියෙනවා. මෙන්න මෙහෙමයි ඒක අහන්න. Rather than asking how many times each day do you brush your teeth, if you ask that, people will feel a bit embarrassed. They might not be brushing their teeth even for a week. I don't know, but maybe in that case you might ask a question like this. Many people find it difficult to brush their teeth twice a day. How often do you brush your teeth? Likewise, you can see, you can ask it a diplomatic way. Some questions, sensitive, embarrassing question. Okay. Understood that? Is it clear?
Yes.
And then also, you have to have the layout of questions in a proper way. First are screening questions. Screening questions is asked to see whether the respondents are suitable for your question. Now, say for an example, I want, let's say your batch, 16D, 16D batch. I want your responses. So I stand in front of SAB, right, in Gold Road premise, right, in the location. I stand in front of that and I give all the students the question. Is it fine? Is it okay? No. I want your batch to answer the question. Therefore, first thing what the question I should ask is a screening question. I should ask whether I am a student of 16D exemption batch. If you say yes, then I will tell, please fill the question. Now, let's say, for an example, if I'm going to target only female students, let's say my population is female students, then I have to ask the question, are you a male or female? And I will ask only females to fill this question. So those are called screening questions. You screen. You check whether these are eligible. If not eligible, right, you don't need to fill them. Then ask some interesting questions at the beginning, right? Interesting questions. Then ask general questions at the beginning. So if you're asking two mentally taxing questions, no one will fill the question in. And then finally ask some sensitive questions, like if you really want to ask some sensitive questions, and demographic questions. So usually you have to place the demographic questions like asking the age, gender, religious affiliation, income level or something, those things at the end. Because if not, people might not feel comfortable. But that's in foreign countries. In Sri Lanka, you can see questionnaires in the first part of the question itself, you ask the demographic question. Why? Because it's easy to question, because it's easy to answer. But in theory, in a proper questionnaire flow layout, demographic questions like age, gender should be put only at the end. But you should never ask the name of the respondent. No identity card number. No any other personal identification should be asked. Because always questionnaire should be anonymous. Right? So opening question should be simple and interesting. Use general questions first, then go to specific questions. And the question should flow smoothly and logical. So as I told you, ask the screener questions, the eligibility questions at the beginning. Then once you have done these things, step number 6, you have to check the question again. You have to ask yourself again, is each question necessary? At the question, how can you decide whether the question is necessary or not? I told you at the beginning of the lecture. How to decide that? How to decide whether a question is required or not? How to decide that?
By comparing it with the objectives.
Very good, excellent. By comparing that with the objectives. Right? If a question is going to help to address the objectives, we call it, it's a necessary question. If not, then it's not a necessary question, but demographic information you will be usually including. Then you will see whether the question is too long. Length is measured by time to fill the question. If it takes more than 10 minutes, it's not a good question. No one will fill a lengthy question. Then see again whether the desired information will achieve the objectives that are there. And then see whether the question is attractive and professional. Then step number 7 and 8, in fact, 7 and 8. Pre-test and revise. Then you have to pre-test. We call this pilot testing as well. What's pilot testing of the question? You go to Katnayaka, or maybe now you have in other places also the country airports. So you try to meet pilots and get the questionnaire filled. Pilot testing means that pilot testing the pilot can make a program. No. Pilot testing means before you give to 200 or 2000 people, give it to 10 or 15 people and ask them to fill that. And that's what we call pilot testing, pre-testing. And get their comments, see whether the question is okay. And if it is okay only, distribute it to the 2000 or 3000 or 5000 people. So that's called pilot testing. Then again, pre-test and revise, see the wording, flow of the questionnaire, length and response interest. Right now, these are skipping pattern. Now you see these are skipping pattern. Now a questionnaire, if you do it properly, there should be a skipping pattern. It asks, are you married? Yes, no. If yes, you'll be asked, okay, go to question number 2. How many children do you have? Now, if you say no, then do you need to fill number 2, question number 2? If you are not married, then you are not supposed to have kids, isn't it? So question number 2 should be skipped. So those are called skipping patterns. So you have to check whether the skipping patterns are accurate, whether everything is okay. If not, your questionnaire might not be accurate. All right. So let's check that. You have to check that. Then finally, prepare the final copy, right? And check again and again and again. See whether there are any spelling mistakes, numbering done properly, coding done properly. And then finally, you can implement the That means give to 2,000, 3,000 people to get the responses. Right. So this is how you prepare, and then I teach you about spaces later on. So this is how you would prepare and test a question. And there are 10 steps that I taught. See, it's not an easy process, right, to prepare a question. But on the other hand, you can adopt. But you cannot take it as it is. But if there is a good question already prepared by some other good researcher, then you can adopt that. You can adopt some questions. But you have to again test it by experts and pilot testing, because those questions might be suitable for another country, but not here. But you might be able to adopt under certain conditions. So this is the process of preparing a question. So I taught you these steps, starting with the objectives of the survey. You have to start with the objectives and finally you go to the implementation. Okay. For the examination purposes, you might be given examples of wrong type of questions and you might be asked certain answers. You might be asked, okay, elaborate with examples, types of questions. We discussed 3 types of questions. So for the examination purpose, please be ready. Okay. Okay. Then now let's go to the second part. Actually, part number 1, this was part number 2, and you can go to week 4 and you can download. So this is from chapter number 10, self-completion questionnaires. These are the questionnaires that I spoke about. So when you see questionnaires, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? What are the advantages of using questionnaires? Now, the advantage of a questionnaire would be the disadvantage of an interview. So advantages and disadvantages are comparative. So can you tell me, Huda, compared to interviews, what's the main advantage of using a questionnaire? Interviews are සාපේක්ෂව questionnaires වල වාසි මොනවද use කිරීම? What are the advantages of using a questionnaire or interviews? At the exam, you might get that question. Sorry.
Yeah, through a questionnaire, we can get like a wide range of opinions of
Exactly. You can get a lot of data. Now, if you are going to perform interviews, it's 1-to-1. So you might be able to, per day, you might get about 5 or 6 interviews. But on the other hand, a questionnaire you can give to 2,000 people and maybe get 500 responses. So it's cheaper to administer, it's faster, you can get a lot of responses. Very true. And of course, all people will be doing that. But there are disadvantages as well. The main disadvantage is that you cannot ask too many questions because the questionnaire cannot be too long. And you cannot put a lot of open-ended questions as well. Right? And also, you might not know who really fills that questionnaire. Now, once I could remember, one of my students, right, that person wanted to interview, actually give a questionnaire to a director of a company. So, the director was one of my friends. So I spoke to him and I told, okay, my student will come. Please help by filling the question. He told, okay. Like, and my student went and tried to meet the director, but the director was not there. And so the secretary had got the questionnaire and asked that student to come next day. Next day, the questionnaire was had been filled by the director and given to my student. Student came to me and told sir that the director filled it and is really helpful. Then I called my director friend and I told, thank you. He asked for what? I told for filling the question. He was a little bit silent for a moment and told, oh yeah, thank you. And he gave the phone. Can you tell me what had happened? Who had really filled the questionnaire? Who had really filled the questionnaire?
Secretary.
So when you give a questionnaire, you never know who fills them. Because you might have sent it through the email or a Google form. You don't know who fills them. Who really fills that, you don't know. So those kind of disadvantages are also there. So cannot probe or prompt. You cannot now, if you don't understand a question, you cannot ask. In an interview, you can clarify any question. So you could ask what you mean and other things. Can ask only salient, limited questions in a questioning. Only few open-ended or complex questions you can have. And the respondents can see the entire questionnaire. So the flow, the person will know already what's coming. In an interview, you can keep the person only, you can take them in a flow. Then cannot ensure that the right person answers. Cannot collect additional data. Respondents fatigue. If too many questions, if it is too long, the respondents wouldn't like to fill them. Likewise, there are several disadvantages. Advantages and disadvantages. So at the exam, you might be asked, okay, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using a self-administered question? Right. Then another thing we have to understand is that when you use a questionnaire, either electronic or paper form, people might not respond as you think. Now, usually in Sri Lanka, if you send 100 questionnaires to 100 people, maybe through email, how many responses usually you would get? What's your best estimate? Abhi to questionnaire siya kya hua? Iya answer karai, how many those people would respond? What's your guess? Abhi daru gindene gaya hu. Arachi, what do you think? What would be the response rate? Siya kya hua? Kiya answer karai?
40%, sir.
40%. Okay, good. Surya, what would be the percentage? Guess.
10%.
20. Okay.
10%.
10%. Okay. And
20%.
20%. Okay. Yes, very good. I got the answer. It's around 10 to 20%. That means 10 to 15% for the CIAC. So that's called the response rate. So very low response rate. So that's why if you want to get 100, then you have to send 1000 questions. Then you will be getting 100. Right. So how to increase the rate? Response rate is very common. Write a good cover letter explaining the purpose. And if you are going to send it by post, a stamped addressed envelope back to you. Then issue gentle reminders. Make the questionnaire short. Have the instructions clear. And the layout attractive. And even provide monetary incentives. You can pay that person if you really want. Although ethically there are issues related to payment, but you can even pay a person to get that question. Right? Okay. So those things could be done. And these things we discussed in the earlier discussion. Okay, so here particularly what are the advantages in the part 1? What you need to know is these are particularly important for understanding the advantages and disadvantages of using a self-completion question. Self-completion means because the respondent are filling that. Okay, so that's about questionnaires, right? Any questions on questionnaires? So we discussed how to prepare a questionnaire. And next day, I'm going to teach you about quantitative data analysis. I'm going to teach you about quantitative data analysis by taking one exam. For that, you need to watch the videos. Right? How many videos did I give? How many videos did I give? 5 videos, right? Recorded by me. Watch at least 4, the first 4. It will be very important for next time's lecture. So watch and come. And of course, get SPSS installed. Right, SPSS install karagana anke. So you might have got an email now, which gives all the instructions. Right, which gives all the instructions. Okay, so with that, then we'll finish today's discussion. Do you have any other questions? What questions, Tina? Any questions, concerns that you want to clarify? Any student who wants to clarify anything? Is everything clear? Okay, now you have, today we are finishing a little bit earlier, but you have now homework. What's your homework? What's your homework? What do the homework?
Watching the videos.
Watching the videos, right? So at least watch the first 4 videos. Target is that. So you use time management techniques that I have taught you, right? Now don't tell you don't have time. So that's only for fools, right? Only a fool would say that there's no time. If you're an intelligent person, you know how to prioritize, right? And then what to give up and what to concentrate, and also to understand time management and give priority to the important ones. Okay. Okay. So you have enough work. So I'm going to complete today a little bit earlier. Any questions that you have? No questions.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes, Anna. Very good. Say Naratna has a question. Just put up.
Sir, regarding the proposal, can you explain a bit, sir?
Okay. So regarding the proposal, I have already given that, but let me explain it again. Very good, Siddharth. Very timely. Right, you asked a very timely question. Okay, let me show it. First of all, Daru, what you need to do is you need to download this one. Proposal templates in Sri Lanka. Right? So go to your website and download proposal template. And first thing is to read this, the template. Right? This is what you have to do. Read this very well, and it says this first you have to put your title, which you already have. Right? Then this is automatically created table of contents. Summary should be written only at the end. Then to the first thing what you have to do is you have to introduce your research. Usually 1.5 pages or 2 pages. Then problem statement. What's your problem? You have to justify your problem with evidence. Right? And then your research questions. And based on that, your research objectives. Your literature review, which you have already got. Then significance of the study, why your study is important. Then most importantly, your research design and methods. So these are major section like literature review. So even if you want, you can skip the literature review because you should have done that, or you can just have it, no problem. Why not you put that, which you have already done. And then you have to explain your methodology. Methodology means how you are going to achieve your objective. What's your conceptual design, hypothesis, likewise. The population sample, how you are going to collect data, scope of the study, limitations of the study, and summary and conclusion. And of course, finally, a time frame. And the references, appendices if any. So this is the template you have to use for that. Right, say another thing. And now let me show you an already a sample done, right, using this template. So download sample proposal number 2. Now read this very carefully. Sample proposal number 2. And see how it's being done. So you can see the topic is there. And there's the abstract or the summary. An introduction. See how these people have introduced their study as an example and do it the same thing. Then see how the students have justified the problem. And what are the research questions that they have got? What are the research objectives which you have already got? Then your literature review, which you have already got. Then how your study is significant. Read how they are told the significance. I have given you an example, an excellent example. And then the research methods. So what's their research approach? Conceptual framework, hypothesis, likewise things are given. And limitations of the study, summary and conclusion, and the time frame in terms of a Gantt chart. So Puta, go through these 2 documents very carefully. Right, Senar? Go through this very carefully. So you will get your answer. And let me take time to next week also to elaborate that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
I have given you even sample proposal. Sample proposal level DLGs. So I love my good students, so I have given you a sample proposal as well. So therefore, I love to see my students performing very well. So please kindly go through these 2 documents. Actually, the first document is only a template, a blank template. And the sample proposal gives you the information that you should include in that template. So as an example, so look at that example very carefully and try to fill that. Okay. A good question, Putta. Thank you. So I have given you 2 resources. Please go through these resources very, very, very carefully. Right? You might not understand 100% what they have done, but you will get an idea what they have done and follow suit. For your research, you can follow the same way. Thank you, Sena, for asking that very important question. And next week, again, remind me, once you go through this, come to the lecture and we'll discuss that more. Right. So because we have another, so today is 5th, another less than 20 days to submit this assignment. And unfortunately, I won't be able to extend the deadline because it's the end of the semester. End of the semester. Therefore, unfortunately, I won't be able to extend the deadline. Therefore, kindly adhere to the deadline. Only the deadline is specified. Okay. Understood. Great. Right. Okay. Thank you, Senartha, for asking that very important question on behalf of all the students. Right. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Concerns? So I have given even an example. Example, right? because I love my students to see doing a good job. Okay, so with that thing, we'll complete for today. Thank you very much. Wish you a good night. Please take care. We'll meet probably on this Saturday for DBS. Right. Good night, Pratap. Please take care.